Welcome to Team Perry's Step Out of Line podcast, featuring co-hosts Perry and Lori Finkelstein. Together, they explore, meet, and share inspirational stories with guests who have made a positive impact in today's world. This podcast resonates with our hope to make this world a better place one step at a time through love, acceptance, and uplifting conversations.
I think the biggest time I've ever stepped out of line was the first time I maybe stuck up for myself. You know, a lot of people stare at me, and I'm sure, Perry, you've experienced this as well. And sometimes I just let it go by, you just ignore it. Well, sometimes it can be so humiliating of an experience where they might call you a name or have others look at you. I think there's been several instances where I actually have stuck up for myself. And usually that's not, in line for what my parents had taught me. And you just kind of put your head down and ignore it. But if you don't say anything, I feel like things won't change. And sometimes it's just a lack of education or a lack of awareness. And maybe it's curiosity coming out in a negative way. But I think that resonates well as stepping out of line when I stuck up for myself.
Was it with adults that this happened, or children who were very curious and came over and say, "What happened to you?" Which is what Perry gets so often.
With kiddos, it's a little bit different because I do realize that's more of a curiosity. So I haven't gotten there yet. I think that's part of my journey that I haven't encountered of how I'm going to teach them of I look different, X, Y, and Z. But most of the times that I've stuck up for myself have been with adults.
And you wonder, how did they not learn to behave like they should behave, or how did they not understand that this was an important lesson in their life that they should have gone through? Perry's had that instance happen many times where people will actually pull their children away from her as if she's contagious. It used to hurt her. And then finally we just realized it's very funny that this keeps happening. And we used to just laugh it off sometimes, even though I know underneath it was horrible for her. But
Sure.
we kind of made light of it, like, oh, here we go again, or whatever. Because what else were you going to do? Crawl into a hole? No. So I think as Perry got older, I think it got probably a little easier. But when did you start also advocating for yourself?
I think I didn't feel like I could advocate for myself until my sophomore or junior year of college, which is when I started this podcast. I don't think I had the ending to be like, okay, this is not right, this is not treat me like that. I'm normal. I'm just like you, I'm just a little different, but this is who I am, and you have to accept it, or you don't have to accept it, but you have to treat me the way I deserve. I think before college, I was like, I rather not start anything up. I rather not.
You don't want to make waves.
I don't want to cause anything. I don't want to make a situation bigger than it is. And I was like, no, it's fine. I was scared. I think now I'm still a little scared, but I'm getting better at, standing up.
Did you go to a public school as a kid, a private school? Where did you grow up?
I went to public school all through kindergarten through 12th grade. I felt like I was the only kid. I was the only kid in school that had Vactral that I was aware of. A lot shorter than everyone else, and it felt very isolating at the time. But I'm glad I got educated in public school. I think it taught me to, stand up for myself or fend for myself as well too, and just learn different situations where you can't always be protected, where a lot of my disabilities, I always wanted to hide them. But there's some points where you do need to ask for help too. So it made me stronger, even though some of the situations in school were terrifying.
Did your parents deliberately did this so that you could develop a thicker skin and get through life?
I mean, I have 4 other brothers and sisters too, so I don't think they wanted to separate me from the normal in our house
Okay.
as well. But I do know that they didn't want me to think that I was, unable to do things if I didn't set my mind to them. And that's how I was raised. I am very grateful that I was raised like that. So if I wanted to do clubs or sports or any activity, I could if I just set my mind to it. And there's obviously some physical limitations, but they never stopped me from what I wanted to do.
When did you pick up a camera and realize this is me, this is what I need to do?
That was probably college. Professionally, when I took a film photography course, but I actually wanted to be a pediatric anesthesiologist for the longest time because in first grade I had a surgery and the anesthesiologist gave me a teddy bear in pre-op, and I was like, oh, well, this is nice. Out of everyone rustling around, this person's really nice to me and gave me a teddy bear. I want to do what she does. And I just thought, anesthesiologists give teddy bears to kids who are having surgery. I didn't actually know what they actually did. From first grade all the way up until college, I was like, I'm going to be a pediatric anesthesiologist. And then I found out that like chemistry and math were not my strong suits. I ended up switching, which the photography was part of that major.
When you look through the lens of the camera and you do a lot of individuals, like I've seen some of your work, and you must see things through a different eye than I would if I would look through the camera. Do you think that creates such a unique perspective in your work that nobody else can replicate it?
I often thought that I do see things differently. And I used to ask God all the time when I was little, like, why? Why in the world would you make me like this? Every other kid at school, the entire city did not have these issues. And later in life, I realized that it was purpose to be able to help people through photography. And I do think I see things differently through a lens, whether it's, even height wise. Like a lot of times you're seeing people at a different angle than most photographers see them. And then also, a lot of times photography is about relationships. It's not always about the art that you create, but it's rather than making relationships with people and having the ability to talk to them and make them feel good about themselves. And I think that's what my purpose is making people feel 100% authentic and comfortable with themselves, because if they walk away from a shoot feeling empowered and amazing, and maybe before that shoot they were thinking, oh, I can't do this, I don't look good enough for a shoot, oh, please don't get this angle, it's terrible. No. And then you show them that they can be beautiful with just being themselves, and I think that's really powerful as a photographer.
You have background on the Let Them Stare project.
Yeah, some background on the Let Them Stare project.
So Let Them Stare, that title came to me about 9 years ago, and I wanted it to be just a fashion show, but obviously with people with disabilities and then showcasing adaptive fashion. So similar to the Runway of Dreams, but it would have been in Nashville. I think I wasn't ready to take on that huge endeavor yet. And so I started writing my own autobiography at one point, and I wasn't ready yet. I started writing it and I said, I can't release this to the world. It's too scary. Like, I'm not ready. And that's fine. And that was like 6 or 7 years ago. And then I was having coffee with my friend Laura, who's a children's book author, and she's also my mentor with this project. She said, I've never seen a children's book with real people. And it kind of put on a light bulb. It's like, oh my gosh, there it is. There's the title. We're going to do a children's book and an adult book, and a beautiful way to combine passion, which is photography, and purpose. And then the Let Them Stare is, a play on words of, you let them stare, but you're also now giving them a reason to stare because of how amazing, resilient you are. So yes, let them stare because you're amazing.
These kids that you're photographing, and I saw some of the images, it's beautiful because
Thank
it reminds me of when Perry was a little girl and she had a trach since she was 2, and people were staring at her the entire time. And these kids look so comfortable, happy. They don't know any different. As somebody who's born into something is different than somebody who gets injured or ill later on in life. You don't think you look differently until somebody points it out and says, hey, you're different. So I think these kids, like the joy is very pure on their face, and they're probably more confident than most adults you would meet in the way that they are. And you see that in the photographs.
100%. And their mindset.
Right.
I do a small interview with each of the children afterwards, and some of the quotes that they come out of their mouths are just so inspiring, and just nothing's going to stop them. And with all the negativity in this world, it just still hasn't gotten into their hearts yet. Their heart is coming out still through their mouths, and it's just, I'm going to cheer you on. Nothing can stop you. Like, you can do whatever you want. I think that's just a wonderful message to children and adults,
Yes.
whether you have a disability or not.
And when you do the adults for the Let Them Stare project, when you speak to them after, what do you think you're going to get out of them?
So for the children's book, I'm not focusing on the disability or difference themselves, just because I think I don't want kids to feel like they're being defined by who they are, what differences they have, because they probably hear it a lot, because kids are going through medical procedures and still figuring out their differences. So I'm not focusing on their differences as much as what they love to do or what they can do. So
Right.
that interview focuses on, oh, how did you become a musician? Or how do you love being a good listener or a good brother or sister? Where the adult version, I think they are really comfortable with their disability or differences. That's a part of who they are. So I think it will reflect, I have A, B, and C, which as an adult, if you see somebody or read that somebody has the same difference as you instantly become like bonded to that person. So I think it is important to put what you're diagnosed with in the interview or on paper, but it'll also tell like what hurdles they've been through and achievements or successes and what it took to get there, and how their disability hasn't let them stop it or stop them from doing what they want. So it's a very similar to the children's book, but it's obviously a lot more because there's a lot more years to their life.
It makes me think also how isolating it must have been for you and Perry to grow up with not anybody like you. I was on like a parents forum on Facebook, but Perry didn't have anybody. And it must have been very lonely as kids growing up, even though you had siblings and Perry has siblings too who were older than her. But it must have been very isolating.
I'm glad I had my brothers and sisters when times got hard, because you soon forget that you're different because you're playing with them and everything. But as soon as you have like an accident at school, just say that isolation comes back real quick, especially if they're just not there. If they're in a different class or something, you do feel very, very alone.
Did you have an aide with you? Like Perry always had a nurse with her. You did too?
Yes.
So that
I
also
had,
made you different.
mostly in elementary school, I got treated a little bit differently because I was supposed to drink, just because of, constipation and making sure everything's flowing well. So I would have to get out of class and get drinks that I would bring into class. Well, if you're bringing it into an elementary school and you have Kool-Aid or something, that's going to be like, hey, why does she get Kool-Aid? And then the aide has to calm everyone down. But that was every single day. And then you also got pulled every day to go to the restroom in a private bathroom. That's always uneasy too, just leaving the room with an aide. And then in middle school and high school, I would get pulled out if I had an issue, which was often, and then got pulled out of gym class quite a bit for different activities. So yes, there's always getting treated differently. And I know that my parents had an aide there for my safety and well-being, and I appreciate that. But yeah, sometimes we're hard to get by. So college was, I guess, a little easier than high school because you're not stuck away from home. I guess you could easily walk to your dorm if you need to change clothes or something, and your classes aren't like right in a row like high school. College wasn't as bad of an experience, I don't think, for me, but the bathroom stuff was still scary. I remember feeling like I couldn't come out of the bathroom at times because I could hear people in the lobby or something. And so I remember feeling like I was trapped in there after I was done doing my stuff. And I'd be like, okay, is now a good time before anyone sees me? That kind of a thing.
I used to also have I used to get her play dates because I needed her to play with people. She hated that. I'm wondering if your parents did the same for you or your siblings were close enough in age that you played with them.
I was involved in Girl Scouts. Our troop was really close to one another, and we all went to the same school. So I usually hung out with them. They would come over and, we'd play Barbies and Legos and all that good stuff. And they still didn't know like about my bathroom stuff. I'm going to say the word lucky, even though it's not lucky, but I was lucky to be able to hide a lot of those things where I was seen as somewhat normal. You know what I mean? I'm going to put it in quotes because I hate that word. But, to a kid's mind, if you're able to hide it with clothing, because my back still looks a little bit different. But when you're young, you're still short, but you're not as short as like if you were in high school and everyone's growing past you. But I felt like I still had friends and I was just hiding everything. So I wasn't being my true self, but I was able to play and connect with people.
So when did you come out of the closet? How old were you?
Oh man, 34. The Good Morning America segment was my first time ever like telling people about Vactrol.
So that's this year, October 24.
I've had a couple friends that I've told, but I didn't say Vactrol. I just said, I have some bathroom things. I'm in the bathroom maybe like a couple hours every other day, that kind of thing. But to announce to the world about Vactrol was a little terrifying, but liberating at the same time.
And what made you decide to say, this is me, I'm just going to do it?
I was asking children, teens, and adults for this Let Them Stare project. I was asking them to do something that I had not. So to be vulnerable and share your story and be comfortable with who you are and not scared of things, that's a lot for someone to ask of you. And that's why I want the child and teen and adult to fully consent. But I wasn't doing it. And so I felt kind of like, well, I'm asking them, but I haven't done it myself. So I decided to share, and Vactrol is still pretty rare, and there's not as much research and patient access for healthcare. And I think if you are vocal about it, and then maybe you can promote change and get more awareness out there. Mm-hmm. And that's another reason why I did it, is because someone out there might be like, oh, I want to go into colorectal or urology because of this.
Or they might say, I have this and I didn't think anybody else in the world had it. And now I feel like, okay, I'm not the only one with this.
Yes.
It's funny what you said, that you felt you were demanding something from people, so you had to give it too. Perry also was asking people, how have you stepped out of line? And then as we started interviewing more people and we spoke about this, she goes, I think I'm not stepping out of line enough myself. Like, it's not enough what I did, I have to do more. And that's because she was asking people to give their most innermost secrets and thoughts and views of what they thought about themselves. And I also thought, me as like a 50-plus-year-old woman, I also said, I don't think I've stepped out of line enough either. What have I done? And I think you really start looking at yourself. How can you ask somebody to do something if you're not doing it yourself? It's transformed our lives totally, because then things start to happen for you.
I definitely feel like a new person, just inside. I can tell. It's just, you don't have to be shy of it. And when it first came out, I thought, yes, I was going to be treated differently. And I was thinking back to when I would have a problem in school and kids would make fun of me. And that's exactly what my mind resorted to, was like, oh my goodness, everyone's going to just attack with terrible comments or messages. And no, it was just complete positivity, and it was amazing. I don't think everyone needs to know the infinite little details, as long as people know that Vactrol exists and it is a thing. I think it's wonderful that people know that about me now.
Did anybody from your childhood come up to you after you came out of your closet and say, I never knew this about you, I wish you had told me? Or was anybody really supportive?
I had one friend who, she was my best friend all through elementary school, and we got split ways in middle school. We went to different middle schools, but she did know quite a bit. But she and I have messaged a lot, and she didn't say, I wish you didn't tell me, but she just thank you for being so strong and so brave. that kind of a thing. So just to still have that friendship is very meaningful and special. I think the messages that really impacted were the moms and dads who messaged me on Instagram or Facebook saying that, oh my goodness, my child has Factral as well. And they were thinking, yes, I was the only person in this world. And to be able to connect them with an adult or resources to help with support, that's to me is why I have Factral, is to be able to help people through it.
What is one thing that not a lot of people know about you?
My dream client is Olivia Benson, SVU, aka Mariska Hargitay. I'm actually terrified of public speaking, but I force myself to do it anyway. This project has really helped me overcome a lot of that, and sometimes I shock myself. But mostly actually before the Good Morning America, I was just not confident in myself. And my friend shared this with me too, and she was like, most of the times I was stepping out of line, those things I say to those people were out of anger. They probably weren't very nice in a tone, but again, if you're not comfortable with yourself 100%, then you're going to notice it more. You're going to notice those people staring. You're going to notice the comments. Well, after that came out, I just don't care and I don't notice it as much. Even though, yes, I know for sure that I go to the grocery store, somebody's going to be staring at me. Somebody. It's just inevitable. But I just don't care anymore. I've noticed a change in that too, that I feel 100% more confident with myself. And it shows through public speaking.
When you're capturing a moment in time, what do you hope people see when they see that image? What is one thing you want people to take away?
They're not defined by their differences, I think is the number one thing, is that look at this child who might have upper limb differences. But if you see a picture, you're not focusing on that anymore. You're focusing on their amazing skill or gift that God gave them. And I think that's so much more important, is they have so much to offer to this world besides what they look like. I want them to be like, wow, that's amazing.